The first warning came through the Arecibo Radio Observatory's aging arrays on a cold December morning. Dr. Marcus Thorne almost missed it, a pattern too precise to be natural, too alien to be human. The signal pulsed with mathematical precision, carrying what appeared to be a distress call but encoded in ways that defied conventional cryptography. Within hours, every major observatory on Earth had confirmed it. Humanity was no longer alone. What no one realized was that the signal wasn't a plea for help. It was a beacon marking Earth for what was to come. The Nix Collective had found their next target. Jackson Nash watched the first ships appear from his remote cabin in the Canadian Rockies. Once a decorated military strategist for NATO's Space Defense Initiative, he'd retreated from the world after a classified incident left him scarred both physically and mentally. But as the massive obsidian vessels emerged from fold space, hanging like dark stars above major cities, he knew his self-imposed exile was over. The Nix didn't come with ultimatums or demands. Their attack began exactly 48 hours after arrival, precise, methodical, and devastating. They deployed what survivors would later call consciousness dampeners, devices that turned human minds against themselves, leaving millions in a catatonic state while Nix harvester units collected them for purposes unknown. Global military response was swift but futile. Conventional weapons couldn't penetrate their shields, and nuclear deterrents were neutralized before they could launch. The world's governments, for all their power and preparation, fell into chaos within days. But Jackson Nash saw something everyone else missed. During his years of isolation, he'd been studying ancient archaeological sites, following a pattern that seemed to suggest Earth had been visited before not just by the Nix, but by something far older. His research led him to Dr. Raven Winters, a brilliant but controversial archaeologist who discovered strange crystalline structures in deep-sea trenches. When the Nix attacked Nash's region, something unexpected happened. The dampeners failed to affect him and several others in the area. At first, he thought it was luck, until Dr. Winters contacted him through an encrypted channel with an incredible theory. The crystalline structures she'd found weren't just artifacts. They were pieces of a planetary defense system left behind by a civilization that had successfully resisted the Nix eons ago. Nash began gathering survivors who showed natural resistance to the dampeners. Among them was former Special Forces operative Kenzo Tanaka, whose combat experience would prove invaluable, and Diana Rodriguez, a quantum computing specialist who'd worked on experimental AI systems before the invasion. Together, they established the first real resistance cell, operating from an abandoned military bunker in the Rockies. While the world above fell to the Nix, they worked to understand the ancient crystal's power and the true nature of their enemy. The breakthrough came when Diana discovered that the crystals resonated with human consciousness in a way that actually strengthened mental resistance. The Nix weren't just collecting humans, they were harvesting consciousness itself, using it as an energy source for their vast empire. But human consciousness had something unique, something that made it both valuable and dangerous to the Nix. As Nash's group began manufacturing crude but effective countermeasures using the crystal technology, word spread through hidden channels. Other resistance cells formed, and a pattern emerged. The Nix weren't invincible. Their technology, though advanced, followed rules that could be understood and countered. The first real victory came 3 months after the initial invasion. Nash's team, using modified crystal resonators, managed to disable a Nix harvester unit in Vancouver. The alien machine didn't just fail, it completely collapsed, as if its very structure had been unwritten from reality. The success caught the attention of the Nix. They sent their first Hunter-class vessel to the region, a massive ship that transformed the surrounding landscape into a nightmare of twisted physics and broken natural laws. But even as the Hunter descended, Nash and his team were already implementing their next plan, one that would show the Nix that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its weapons or technology, but in its unfathomable capacity to adapt and overcome. As the Hunter's shadow fell over the Rockies, Nash stood at the bunker's entrance, the recovered crystal humming with power in his hands. "They think they're here to harvest us," he told his gathered forces. "Let's show them why that was their biggest mistake." The battle against the Hunter-class vessel reshaped everything humanity thought they knew about warfare. Nash's team didn't just survive, they revealed a fundamental weakness in Nix technology. The crystal resonators, when properly tuned, didn't just block the alien consciousness dampeners. They created feedback loops that turned the Nix's own power against them. Dr. Raven Winters arrived at the bunker complex 2 weeks after the Hunters' defeat, bringing with her a team of surviving scientists and a theory that would change the course of the resistance. Among her team was Dr. Priya Kalani, a xenophysicist whose work on quantum entanglement had been dismissed as theoretical impossibility before the invasion. The Nix aren't just collecting consciousness, Dr. Kalani explained during the first strategy meeting. They're farming it, but human consciousness has something they've never encountered before: quantum irregularity. She projected a hologram showing brain wave patterns. Our minds don't just think linearly, they exist in multiple quantum states simultaneously. We're natural quantum computers, and that terrifies them. The resistance grew rapidly as word spread through hidden channels. Kenzo Tanaka established a network of underground routes, moving survivors and supplies between hidden bases. Diana Rodriguez developed a system for connecting isolated resistance cells using repurposed Nix technology, creating what she called the shadow net. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A young survivor named Marcus Chen, barely 16, displayed an unusual ability to sense Nix movements before they happened. At first, they thought it was coincidence, until more children and teenagers began showing similar capabilities. Dr. Kalani called it quantum resonance. Their developing minds were naturally tuning into the same quantum frequencies the Nix used for communication. Nash recognized the strategic value immediately. With these quantum sensitives, the resistance could predict Nix attacks and movements. They began organizing special units, pairing experienced fighters with young sensitives, striking Nix operations before they could begin. The Nix responded with escalating force. They deployed new weapons, reality warpers that turned cities inside out, time displacement fields that aged people to dust in seconds. But each new horror only revealed more about how their technology worked, and Dr. Kalani's team worked tirelessly to understand and counter each innovation. Diana Rodriguez made another crucial discovery while analyzing captured Nix tech. Their entire empire runs on harvested consciousness, she reported. But they don't just use it for power, they use it for processing, for thinking. They're not just conquerors, they're parasites. They can't innovate on their own anymore. They need us because they've lost their own ability to evolve. This revelation sparked a new strategy. Instead of just defending against Nix attacks, the resistance began targeting their processing centers, massive structures where harvested consciousness was stored and utilized. Each successful strike didn't just free captured humans, it crippled the Nix's ability to coordinate and adapt. The tide began to turn, but victory came with a terrible cost. Many of the quantum sensitives began experiencing severe symptoms: headaches, seizures, bleeding from their eyes. The human mind wasn't meant to process quantum information so directly. Dr. Kalani worked desperately to find a solution, knowing that without the sensitives, the resistance would lose its greatest advantage. The answer came from Dr. Winter's continued research into the ancient crystalline technology. The crystals weren't just weapons or shields, they were interfaces, designed to allow organic minds to safely interact with quantum fields. By incorporating crystal fragments into neural implants, they could protect the sensitives while amplifying their abilities. The first successful integration was with Marcus Chen. The procedure was dangerous, but the young man volunteered without hesitation. "They took my family," he said before going under. "I want them to know what that cost them." When he awoke, Marcus could do more than just sense the Nix. He could see into their network, understand their language, predict their strategies with uncanny accuracy. The crystal implant glowed beneath his skin, a constant reminder of how far humanity had come from its pre-invasion innocence. Nash gathered his command staff as reports came in of similar successes with other sensitives. "We're no longer just fighting for survival," he told them. "We're fighting for evolution. The Nix came here thinking we were just another resource to harvest. Instead, they've forced us to become something new, something they never expected." Dr. Kalani added the final piece to their emerging strategy. "The Nix's greatest weakness isn't in their technology," she explained. "It's in their inability to understand what they're fighting. They see consciousness as a resource to be consumed. They can't comprehend that consciousness can grow, adapt, become something greater than the sum of its parts." As the resistance prepared for its next phase of operations, Nash stood at the bunker's observation deck, watching the aurora borealis dance across the sky, a phenomenon that had grown stronger since the Nix arrived, as if Earth itself was responding to the invasion. The crystals hummed in their containment units below, resonating with the quantum frequencies that now connected human minds in ways never before possible. "They thought they were harvesting us," Nash murmured, echoing his words from months before. "Instead, they're about to learn why you should never corner a species capable of rewriting its own destiny." The Mariana Trench expedition wasn't supposed to change everything. It began as a desperate attempt to secure additional crystal deposits, with Dr. Winters leading a modified submarine crew into the darkest depths of Earth's oceans. What they found instead was the key to humanity's transformation. The structure rose from the oceanic floor like a sleeping giant, a vast complex of crystalline architecture that had remained hidden for millions of years. Dr. Winter's team, including deep-sea specialist Dr. Omar Hassan, made first contact with the facility's still-active security systems. "It's not just a building," Dr. Hassan reported through quantum-encrypted channels. "It's a library, a laboratory, and a fortress all in one. The predecessors, they didn't just visit Earth, they chose it. They left this here for us to find when we were ready." The facility's activation sent ripples through the quantum field that every sensitive on Earth could feel. Marcus Chen, now leading the Quantum Intelligence Division, described it as a symphony of possibility awakening. The Knicks felt it too, their entire fleet shifted position, converging on the Pacific with singular purpose. But the predecessors had planned for this. As the Knicks approached, ancient defense systems activated automatically. Massive energy barriers erupted from the ocean floor, creating a protected zone spanning hundreds of miles. Inside this zone, Dr. Winter's team made discovery after discovery. "They were like us once," Dr. Kalani explained during an emergency briefing. "The predecessors, they faced the same choice we're facing now, evolution or extinction. They chose to transcend their physical forms, becoming beings of pure quantum consciousness. But they didn't abandon their humanity, they enhanced it." The facility contained more than just technology. It held the condensed knowledge of an entire civilization, one that had successfully fought the Knicks and forced them to retreat millennia ago. But the most stunning revelation came from Diana Rodriguez's analysis of the facility's central core. "It's not just data storage," she reported, her voice trembling with excitement. "It's a quantum consciousness matrix. The predecessors didn't just leave us their technology, they left us their minds, their memories, their very essence, waiting in quantum suspension for beings capable of receiving them." The implications were staggering. The predecessors hadn't gone extinct, they'd evolved into a form of existence the Knicks couldn't comprehend or consume. And they'd prepared Earth as an incubator for humanity to potentially follow the same path. Nash gathered the resistance leadership to discuss the discovery's implications. Kenzo Tanaka, who had been coordinating global defense networks, spoke first. "This changes everything. The Knicks aren't just fighting us anymore, they're fighting to prevent us from becoming what the predecessors became." The facility provided plans for weapons that could actually harm Knicks vessels, shields that could protect entire cities, and most importantly, a roadmap for human consciousness to evolve beyond its current limitations. But the process was dangerous, requiring a complete reimagining of what it meant to be human. Marcus Chen volunteered to be the first to attempt full quantum integration with the predecessor matrix. "We've already started down this path," he argued, the crystal implant in his temple pulsing with blue light. "This is just the next step." The integration process was unlike anything they'd prepared for. As Marcus's consciousness merged with the quantum matrix, he experienced millions of years of predecessor memories in what felt like seconds. When he emerged, he wasn't just human anymore, but he hadn't lost his humanity either. "They're still here," he said, his eyes now containing swirling galaxies of possibility. "The predecessors, they've been waiting, watching, preparing us. Every step of human evolution has been guided, not toward domination like the Knicks, but toward transcendence." Dr. Kalani's team worked tirelessly to understand and replicate the process. Each successful integration strengthened the quantum network connecting humanity's resistance. The sensitives who underwent the procedure gained abilities that bordered on the miraculous, the power to manipulate quantum fields directly, to see through time itself, to understand the very fabric of reality. But the Knicks weren't idle. Their attacks intensified, becoming more desperate as they realized what was happening. They deployed planet-killer weapons, willing to destroy Earth rather than allow another species to follow the predecessor's path. Nash, watching the battles unfold through quantum-enhanced surveillance, made a decision that would alter the course of the war. "We're not just fighting for survival anymore," he announced to the assembled resistance leaders. "We're fighting for our evolution, for our right to become something greater than what we are. The predecessors showed us the path, now we have to be brave enough to take it." Dr. Winters, emerging from weeks of studying predecessor records, provided the final piece of the puzzle. "The Knicks fear us because they can sense what we're becoming. They've spent eons harvesting consciousness, but they never understood its true potential. They're about to learn that consciousness isn't just energy to be consumed, it's a force that can reshape reality itself. As the resistance prepared for its next phase, Nash stood in the heart of the predecessor facility, watching as more volunteers underwent the integration process. Each success brought humanity closer to a transformation that would reshape the galaxy. The Knicks had come to Earth expecting to find another harvest world. Instead, they'd found the seeds of their own obsolescence. "We are the heirs of the predecessors," Nash declared to his assembled forces, "and it's time we claimed our inheritance." Operation Quantum Dawn began in the dark hours before sunrise. Across the globe, integrated humans, now called transcendents, synchronized their consciousness through the quantum network. Marcus Chen, leading the coordinated strike from the predecessor facility, reached out with his enhanced mind and felt thousands of others connect, their thoughts merging into a symphony of purpose. The Knicks never saw the first strike coming. Their consciousness dampeners, designed to suppress individual human minds, were useless against the collective quantum consciousness that now linked the resistance. Dr. Kalani's breakthrough had made this possible, a way to share consciousness without losing individuality, to become more while remaining human. "Target their processing centers first," Nash ordered through the quantum link. "Cut off their ability to process harvested consciousness." Kenzo Tanaka's strike teams, enhanced with predecessor tech, moved simultaneously across continents. Each team was led by a transcendent, their enhanced abilities allowing them to pierce Nick's defenses like they were made of smoke. Diana Rodriguez, monitoring the quantum battlefield from her command center, watched as the first Nick's processing facility in Brazil collapsed. The harvested consciousness contained within didn't dissipate, it rejoined its original hosts, awakening thousands of humans from their captive slumber. The sight of people emerging from the ruins, their minds intact and now resistant to Nick's control, sparked hope across the resistance. But the Knicks responded with characteristic brutality. They deployed their ultimate weapons, reality renders, massive ships capable of unwriting the very laws of physics within their range. The sky above London turned inside out, buildings twisted into impossible shapes, and gravity reversed itself without warning. This was the moment Dr. Hassan's research had prepared them for. The predecessors faced these weapons before, he communicated through the quantum network. Reality itself isn't what the Knicks think it is, it's consciousness all the way down, and we now have the tools to prove it. Marcus Chen led the counterattack, coordinating with other transcendents to stabilize the quantum field around London. Their enhanced minds reached out, not fighting the reality distortions but understanding them, redirecting them, turning the Knicks' power back upon itself. The reality render ship above London shuddered, its impossibly dark hull cracking as its own weapons were reflected back at it. "They never understood what they were harvesting," Dr. Kalani observed, monitoring the quantum readings. "Consciousness isn't just energy, it's the fundamental force that shapes reality. The predecessors knew this. Now we do too." The battle raged across multiple dimensions of reality. In New York, transcendent warriors led by former police officer Zara Knight engaged Nick's ground forces in quantum combat. Their enhanced minds allowed them to predict enemy movements before they happened, to shift between possible realities to avoid attacks, to manifest quantum energy as physical force. But the true turning point came when Nash implemented Protocol Awakening. As Nick's ships descended to crush the resistance, integrated humans worldwide joined their consciousness in a synchronized surge of quantum power. The effect was beyond anything they'd prepared, for a wave of pure consciousness that swept across the planet, shattering Nick's control systems and awakening every harvested human mind simultaneously. The Knicks fleet reeled, their ships losing power as their stolen consciousness processors overloaded. Dr. Winters, watching from the predecessor facility, recognized what was happening. "They built their entire civilization on stolen consciousness," she explained through the network. "Without it, their technology is just empty shells." In orbit, Nick's command ships began to fall, their once impenetrable hulls now vulnerable to weapons guided by enhanced human consciousness. Each victory strengthened the quantum network, as more awakened humans joined their minds to the collective effort. Diana Rodriguez's sensors detected a new phenomenon. The quantum field around Earth was changing, becoming more ordered, more purposeful. "The planet itself is responding," she reported. "All those millennia of preparation by the predecessor's Earth was never just a battlefield. It's a crucible designed to help us reach this exact moment." The Knicks launched a desperate counterstrike, attempting to trigger their doomsday weapon, a device capable of collapsing Earth's quantum field entirely. But they found themselves facing something they'd never encountered in all their eons of conquest: a a species that had not only survived their harvest but had transformed it into transcendence. Marcus Chen, his consciousness now expanded far beyond human limits, reached out to touch the quantum essence of the doomsday weapon itself. Their technology is based on the same fundamental forces we now control, he shared through the network. They're not gods, they're just addicts, desperate to consume consciousness because they've forgotten how to grow it themselves. Nash, coordinating the global defense from the Quantum Command Center, watched as humanity's enhanced forces pushed the Nix back on every front. The enemy's weapons, once terrifying in their alienness, now seemed crude compared to the subtle manipulation of reality that integrated humans could achieve. We're not just winning battles, he realized, sharing the thought across the quantum network. We're showing the galaxy a new way to evolve. The Nix thought they were gods among lesser beings, but they never understood the true potential of consciousness. We're not just fighting their empire, we're transcending it. As the sun rose over a battlefield that spanned continents and dimensions, humanity stood on the brink of not just victory, but transformation. The Nix had come to harvest a species. Instead, they had catalyzed its evolution into something beyond their comprehension.